Hi, welcome to episode 282 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, and that's where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop where I sell my handspun yarns, and we have a Ravelry group called the Corner of Knit and Tea. Hi, how are you? Today is Monday, June 15th. And I hope that you are off to a lovely start for your week. The past week here has been pretty good. Mostly we're just still laying low and staying home, although the state is opening up some. But we've decided that we are safer when we spend most of our time at home. So we do run a couple errands on weekends, usually pick up some takeout, and we do a quick grocery trip. But other than that, we are pretty much in for the duration. So there has been lots of crafting time, lots of reading, lots of thinking, lots of reading books that are food for thought, watching the news, keeping abreast of what's going on in the world, which in general is not terribly positive. But we are keeping on, and I am doing my best to be a better person and to put good things out there in the world. So I wish you the same. I hope that you are well. We are fine so far. Let's see, I don't have too much for chat. Like, the most exciting thing for the weekend is that Wes had ordered a pressure washer, so we pressure washed our deck and sat out there. And it's funny, we have had this deck the entire time we've lived here, which is almost 10 years now. It is 10 years this, it's 10 years this year. And in general, I do not enjoy spending time out there because the deck is not covered, so it gets very warm and toasty, particularly in the summer. But now that it has been, now that we've been here for 10 years, all the trees have grown in so much that the deck is actually shaded. And the last several weeks, even though they have been quite warm, there has been a breeze during the day. So we have actually enjoyed sitting out on our deck at lunchtime or in the afternoon with the breeze in the shade. So we pressure washed our deck this weekend. Like I said, excitement abounds in our household. So this was a big crafty week, and I can't wait to show you. I have 3 finishes, and one of them is a huge finish, so I am excited to share them with you. So let's get right into the podcast. Today I am drinking David's tea. It is called Sugar and Spice. This is a black tea blend with cinnamon, cloves, vanilla, and everything else, which includes orange peel and marigold petals. It is, I bought a big one on sale from them ages ago. I mean, really probably years ago, and unfortunately they discontinued it and I have not seen it since. But it is just a black spiced tea. It is really nice, one of my favorites, and I don't have too much of it left, so pretty soon it will be gone, but I am enjoying it while I can, and I am enjoying it today in my Stonehenge sheep mug that I got when we went to Stonehenge almost a year and a half ago now. It was January of 2019. That's delicious. That'll be perfect for picking me up for the afternoon left to come. It is about 3 o'clock right now, and I still have a little bit more work to do for work and a little bit of crafting I'd like to do before dinner time. So let's get into the things that I am working on. Let's start with the finishes. First of all, I finished my hat. This is the Standing Rock hat by Lavanya Patricella. She asked for a donation to, debuted the design during the protests at Standing Rock and had a donation link. So the pattern was for free, but she requested that you send a donation to Standing Rock. I went to look at that link, and it is now broken. It is discontinued because the protests were a couple years ago. So I went and donated it to a cause that I felt was worthwhile right now. And the Navajo Nation has seen quite a bit bit of coronavirus, and they are having a hard time controlling it, and they have a GoFundMe and an official campaign, so I went ahead and donated to their medical campaign to fight coronavirus. So this is the Standing Rock hat by Lavanya Petrosella. The yarn is from Handmade Knits, who is Amanda, and she is also a designer, but she has a small Etsy shop and does some really beautiful yarns. This one is called Sugar Plum, and it is kind of a dusty mauve with little bits of blue and orange and darker purple in it, and I don't know that you can see all those speckles, but the hat is a nice ribbed hat. This is a hat for Roxy, she'll get it in the fall for this coming winter. Basically, I went and looked around at some good size patterns for kids. Roxy is going to be she's going to be 7 in the fall. Wow. And so I went and looked for some good sizes for kids' hats, knowing that this will stretch quite a bit because it is ribbed. So it's just a simple hat. It was really easy. It was pretty quick. I didn't knit it super quick, but I just did a few rows at a time, a lot of the time, so that's why it didn't get finished quickly, and I'm super happy with it. And if it's too long, she can always cuff it up just a little bit, and I think that will be super cute, or she can wear it kind of slouchy. And of course it needed a big pom-pom, so I used about 150 yards for this hat and the pom-pom, so that one is done. So, second thing I finished this week, and it is not blocked, so it doesn't look perfect, but I finished my shawl. This is the yarn that I just couldn't figure out what it wanted to be. The yarn is from Spirit Trail Fiberworks, and it is their Zalti base, which is an Aran weight wool. It is in the beautiful blue colorway that reminds me of hydrangeas. It's just a arresting blue, and this is yarn that I bought at Rhinebeck a couple years ago when I went, the one and only time that I went, and I thought it was going to be a sweater, and I knit it into a sweater that I then proceeded to not wear because it wasn't really my style. So I ripped it out and tried to put it into another sweater, and that didn't work. And so finally I settled on a shawl, and I am super, super thrilled with this shawl. It is nice and big and cozy, and it's not even blocked yet, so I expect it will grow because it is garter stitch. The pattern is Quaking Aspens by Dee O'Keefe, and it is written for not Aran weight, but it is written for, I can't remember whether it's DK or worsted weight. She has quite a few shawls that are written for heavier weights, and for some reason I'm just really loving the look of those lately, and because I live in a place that gets winter, it's not entirely out of the question to make a worsted weight shawl. So this one is lots of garter stitch with some of those just stockinette ridges for detail, and then it is a simple leaf lace pattern down at the bottom, followed by a garter stitch border. So it is, like I said, pretty large already. It is close to my wingspan already when I stretch, and I'm sure it will grow a little bit in blocking. I used up 900 yards in this shawl, which I originally had probably 1,200, and I probably had a little bit less than that because I had already knit with it and cut it into balls and So I probably have between probably 275 to 300 yards left, and I'm going to turn that into a couple blue hats for Hat Not Hate and call it good. And I am so thrilled. Like I said, this needs some blocking so that the leaf lace will spread out a little bit, and I will post pretty photos once I have blocked, but I finished this on Saturday and I didn't think it would be dry in time if I blocked it, so I went ahead and brought it here. So again, that is Quaking Aspens by Dee O'Keefe in some yarn that I got from Rhinebeck, and I could not be more thrilled. I can't wait for it to get cold now so that I can cuddle up with it. But that is my second finished object for the week. My third finished object for the week, and it's a big one, is Myles Blanket. The blanket is the Woodland Crochet blanket, which was a crochet along led by Lucy of Attic24. You can find her blog at attic24. I think it's typepad.com, and she produces patterns for her knit along for free. And so all the steps for the Woodland Crochet Cal are on her blog. I crocheted using the size hook she called for, which was a G hook. And I do not think I got the dimensions that she called for. I think my blanket is considerably wider, but I am not perturbed at all because the blanket came out to be 60 inches by 80 inches, which is frankly almost the size of a double bed, but it will be perfectly warm and happy for Myles, and here it is. So this is the finished blanket. I did 3 rounds of single crochet on the border as called for, and I used one of her packs. I cannot remember what the package was called because it was actually not the Woodland Crochet pack. She puts together yarn packages at Wool Market in the UK. She uses Stylecraft DK, which is an acrylic blend, and it is approximately a DK weight and about 330 yards per skein. So you get great yardage, and those packs are super reasonable. I want to say they were like 28, 29, 30 pounds, which translated into $40 or $50 here in the US, and that is for 15 skeins of yarn, or basically 4,500 yards of yarn. But I'm sure you're dying to know what I actually used. I used approximately 12 and a half skeins in this project, so I have my leftovers all bagged up and weighed and measured so I can do something else with them. And so I went ahead and measured all of that and then subtracted and found what I used in the blanket. So I will be taking better photos, but this is the finished blanket. I am so pleased with it. It came out beautifully. It's warm and cuddly and cozy, and I'm going to, I think I'm going to take nice photos with it outside, and then I'm going to run it through the washer, and then package it up. And Myles' birthday is in October. He will be 4, and so this is his new blanket for this year. I am crocheting these instead of doing their yearly sweaters, so, and it's quite a bit more effort, but Roxy in particular has very much outgrown her baby blanket, and even Myles is getting there, so I thought it would be nice to give them blankets that could be used on their twin size beds. So this one was a whopping total of 3,900 yards out of the stash, and I have talked about the fact that I am sort of playing along with Stash Dash, and that is a contest sort of, although you're mostly competing against yourself, hosted by the Knit Girls, who are Laura and Leslie, and basically it is a challenge to see how much yardage you can use or spin up out of your stash, and there are various goals: 1K, 5K, 10K, 15K, whatnot, and this 3,900 yards gave me a lot. I am over 5,500 meters, so 5.5 kilometers for this year's Stash Dash already. I suspect that my next, that the next couple months won't produce quite that much. I might be able to hit 10K this summer if I do some good spinning and some other things. So this week I added my 3,900, I added my 900 for my shawl, and my 150 for my hat. So it was a big, big week. So you might ask, what is on my needles now that all of those things are done? So technically I have one thing on my needles that I am actively working on. I showed you the yarn for this last week. This is another sample for Zen Yarn Garden. This is their superfine merino, 100% superwash merino, and it is in the colorways. This is Lydia Crocheting in the Gardens at Marley, abbreviated to Lydia Crocheting if you're looking for it on their website, and this is Moon Purple. So these are the two colors that I am using together, and I am knitting the Yogi Shawl. I think it's Yogi, B-O-J-A-G-I, by Knit Boop, and it is a 2-color shawl that includes some garter stitch, some mosaic stitch, and some lace. And I didn't get a ton done on this week because I was focusing on getting all of those other things done. So this will be a big focus project for this week. But I finished the first garter section, and then I started into the mosaic chart. So that is what I did this week, and I expect to finish the mosaic section. The section after that is a lace section, and then another mosaic section, and then garter. The pattern is free on Ravelry. Again, it is the Yogi Shawl, and it was designed by Knit Boop, I believe, to promote the Webster Street Knittery, which is her yarn shop. But as I said, I'm doing this as a sample for Zen Yarn Garden, and I love the way that multicolor plays with the purple and gives us that nice mosaic stitch pattern. It's interesting because my living room is not that well lit, and I was working on this last night when it was kind of dusky and dark, and I was knitting it and I couldn't see a lot of the contrast between the colors, and I kept thinking, is that going to even be enough contrast for anybody to see it? And it totally is. It was just that I was knitting with two dark colors in the dark. So again, that is what I will be working on this week. I am knitting it on the needles called for, which I believe are a US 5 and a US 6, but you'll have to double check the pattern for that. So that is what's going on right now, and I am using a Naughty Gnome Crafts bag with these little Matryoshka dolls, which I really, really like. I don't know if she's doing bags right now. I know she is a designer, and she has also started doing some planner stuff. So planner stickers and the like. So you can follow her if you're interested in seeing what she's up to. So that is kind of what's currently on my needles. Because I finished the blanket, it is time to start another blanket. And the new blanket is going to be roughly the same as the blanket I just finished, as in I am using the same pattern and I am using another wool pack from Wool Market. And so I will show you. This is the Sweet Pea kit, and basically I chose this kit because Roxy told me that she really likes pinks and purples and light blues, and this pack had a whole heck of a lot of that. And I am going to try and pull out some of the colorways. These are the Sweet Pea colorways. I have greens, I have pinks, I have blues and purples. And so this is just going to be a beautiful kind of array of different pinks and purples and blues. And I am going to do this one a little bit differently. I have like 5 or 6 more in the bag, but I can't fit them in my arms and be able to actually show them to you. So I am just going to continue talking here. So I bought this kit. There is a Sweet Pea blanket that is kind of a trellis crochet that goes along with the wool pack, but I decided that I still like the ripple pattern the best, so I am making Roxy a ripple pattern. Now, what is a little bit different about hers is that instead of doing the multi-stripes kind of fading in and out of the rainbow of colors, this is actually going to be more of a gradient blanket. And so I am going to sort of follow the color arrangement that Lucy of Attic 24 suggests for the Sweet Pea blanket, although I'm going to make a few changes in what I'm doing. And I think what it's going to end up looking like is a little bit of a the Missoni style blanket with the ripples. It won't actually be chevrons, it'll be ripples, but it will kind of fade through the colors. And I have looked at a ton of projects that people used with this wool pack, and that was sort of what I decided I wanted to do. So with that in mind, last night I cast on, and it is a very humble beginning, but I cast on. So I did the foundation chain and then a row of single crochet, and then I started in on the pattern. So I have, this is the first color, which is called Pistachio, and I have the beginnings of a blanket. Obviously it's pretty much not looking like a blanket. This is the point at which I'd say to my husband, see, a new blanket, and he'd be like, yeah, that looks like a rope. So this is what I will be working on. I'm going to continue working on it for the 100 Days project, and we are now somewhere in the 60s. So I finished Myles and I'm moving on to Roxy's. I do not expect that I will finish this until the fall. My deadline is her birthday in October, but I expect that it should take me about 3 months to do it. So June, July, August, and maybe some or most of September, and then I will be ready to go. So this is the new one. Second verse, same as the first. Technically it's the third verse because I also have one for myself, but I will be sharing that with you from now on. So let's talk about what else I'm going to cast on this week, because we know that I can't keep it at one knitting project and one crochet project. That's just silly. So I finished Roxy's hat for the fall, and I decided that I would start on a set for Myles. Myles has stated that his favorite color is red, so I went ahead on over to Eat, Sleep, Knit and purchased one of my favorite yarns to knit for the kids in, and that is Dream in Color Classy. The thing I like about Dream in Color is they are beautiful superwash yarns. They are slightly larger skeins. The worsted skeins come in 250 yards rather than some other skeins that come in 2 or 220. So I get a little bit of extra yardage there, and I love supporting Eat, Sleep, Knit. So these are kind of my favorite yarns to use for kids stuff. I use Dream in Color Classy a lot, and this is in the Valentine colorway, which is bright, bright red, almost an orangey fire truck red. And I'm not sure if that's Myles' preferred shade of red. I have knit for him in other shades as well, and I think when I look for reds, I often tend to look for more cherry reds. But with Dream in Color, the reds that I was looking at that were in stock, a lot of them leaned more pink, and I didn't necessarily want to knit him hot pink accessories because I wasn't sure that would fit the bill of red. So I got these two skeins, and so that gives me 500 yards to work with. And my plan is to knit a hat and mittens and then use whatever is left to knit him a scarf. He's 4, this will be his first scarf, but he's old enough that I don't worry too much about it being a choking hazard, and I think he would like one. I gave Roxy her first scarf, I think, when she was 5, and of course when you're the little sibling behind, you want everything that your older sibling has. So my plan is to do that. What I'm probably going to do is a mishmash of Tin Can Knits patterns. I love Tin Can Knits patterns. They're super simple. They come in sizes baby, toddler, child, all the way up to adult in various sizes, and I love a lot of their patterns. They're simple, but they've got elegant details. So I do like the, I think it's called the World's Simplest Mittens. That is by Tin Can Knits. I have used that quite a bit for the kids. So that is what I will be using for the mittens pattern. I think I'm probably going to knit the scarf and make it the wheat scarf, which is a garter stitch scarf with a kind of ribbed panel in it on the side, and I cannot remember whether that one is free. I think it's free, but I have knit it before, so I know I have the pattern. And then what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to knit him a hat maybe and mock up the hat to make it look like the wheat pattern. So basically knit a garter stitch hat but have a panel that is just a little bit of ribbing. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to start with the hat and mittens because then I can use whatever is left for the scarf. And he is still tiny at 4, so it does not need to be like a huge full-size scarf. So I haven't decided. I'm certainly going to knit the scarf to less length than the pattern calls for. But I haven't decided if I'm going to decrease the width a little bit too. I think I'm just going to wait and see what kind of yardage I have left and then play with that from there. So that is a Dream in Color Valentine. I expect that these, gosh, that's really blowing out the camera from where I sit. I expect that these will take me a few weeks to finish all of these things. You know, like I'll probably do the hat this week and maybe the mittens next week. You know how I love mittens. And then the scarf the final week. So it should be a few weeks worth of work, but that is my plan. So I think that's quite enough for knitting and crocheting for now. You know, it's super interesting. Sometimes I want to cast on all the things and I want to work 5 minutes on this and 10 minutes on this and a little bit on this. And then sometimes I feel like I'm not getting enough done, and then I kind of focus on things. And I feel like I have so many sweaters that are going and a lot of them need work. I don't mean just finishing them. Like a lot of them need to have a little rethink and to do a fix, like my ripple crop top. And so I just feel like I should focus in on a few things right now and, you know, work on getting a few more things done. So I think I'm going to keep it to 2 knitting projects and a crochet project, which I realize doesn't sound very focused, but to me that's like a sample and 1 other project, and so I think that's going to keep me kind of grounded right now. And then after I finish the stuff for Myles, then I will have to think about what I want to go back to. I probably will go back to the ripple crop top and see if I can finish that once and for all for me. I also have 2 or 3 other sweaters on the needles that I need to deal with, either either rip them out or reknit them. Plus I have other things I'd like to knit, but I'm just feeling a little bit at a loss. So at this point, I think I'm going to focus in for a little while. And of course, in 2 or 3 weeks, I'll probably tell you I'm going to cast on all the things, but you know, that's how it goes. So sip of tea, and then we'll discuss spinning, and then we'll be done. Okay, spinning. The last couple weeks, I have showed you a beautiful braid from Hello Yarn Fibers called Sinister Things. It was a 2016 club, so it was digging deep into the stash, and I have all my singles spun. These are spun fractally, so at the bottom are the small strips that I tore. I tore the braid in half. One side I ripped into smaller strips, I think 4 or 5 of them. And then one side I spun straight through. The side you're seeing is the side I spun straight through. And so I will go ahead and get this off the bobbin and probably ply this one night this week. And then this will go up in the shop. So I am ready for a new braid. And I went through my stash. I think I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Felt that coming on. I went through my stash looking for what motivated me, and I found this braid. This is actually in the stash from last year. This is called Windswept, and it was from the Fiber Club of August 2019, and it is Rambouillet wool top. And so it is about a year ago, but it is just absolutely beachy. It's got blues and grays and tans, and it reminds me of water and sand and kind of reeds and just beachy. It is just absolutely lovely and light, and you know, normally I prefer a lot more color, but this one is just, I don't know, something about this one just wants to be spun. So I am going to spin this one up this week. If this looks like something you'd be interested in, it will be in the shop probably in a couple weeks at the rate that I'm moving. But this is my next spin, and I think I'm probably just going to tear this into strips and do lots of barber pole, because I think this yarn is going to read very pale with just a few pops of color, and that's kind of exactly what I want it to be. So this will be kind of a neutral if you're looking for something fun. And it is Rambouillet, which is absolutely springy, and will be super puffy and super soft. So that is what I will be working on as soon as I finish my plying Sinister Things. So those are the ones that I'm working on this week. So thanks for joining me. The only other thing I was thinking about is in past years, I have done, I can't remember how many years. I know I did it last year. I'm not sure if I did it the year before. In past years, I have done a Christmas in July knit along, and that is mostly for myself because every year I buy a great skein of Christmas sock yarn, and I never end up actually knitting it up. And so no different this year. I bought a beautiful skein of Christmas sock yarn, and it arrived, and I was super excited about it, and never knit the socks. And so now I think I'm going to knit a pair of Christmas socks in July, and I would invite you to join me. If you are interested, we'll make it a knit along. We can have some prizes. It can also be a crochet along if you would like. Normal rules apply, which is projects should be no more than 50% completed by the start of July, which is July 1st. It'll run July 1st through 31st, and you can enter as many times as a pair of socks that you knit. Which also reminds me, if you are interested in focusing on knitting socks during the summer, which I actually do a lot because they are great, lightweight, portable projects, and even if you don't knit them in the summer, then you have a fresh stash of socks for the fall when the weather gets cooler. Anne from Woolly Wonka Fibers is hosting her own version of the 100-Day Project. She has been working on the 100-Day Project as well, and she decided that it would be fun to do 100 days of socks. So she has scheduled her 100-Day Project to start right around the time that the current 100-Day Project finishes, which I think is either July 15th or July 17th. Excuse me. And so she has decided that she's going to do 100 days of socks and encourages people to join in. You do not have to use her yarns or her patterns, although I'm sure if you use her yarns or patterns, it will be appreciated. But Basically, the idea is to just spend 100 days knitting socks. And I actually will want to knit some socks for the kids, plus my own Christmas socks in July. And so my thought was that I would kind of participate along with her and see what I could get knit. So I think this summer is going to be kind of a summer of socks, and I'm excited about that. But if you are a sock knitter and want to join in, check out her group. And again, that is Woolly Wonka Fibers, and she's got a group on Ravelry and a thread dedicated to the 100-day project. So I think that's all I have for you today. I hope that you are doing well, staying healthy, doing whatever you need to do to find your way in the world these days. I appreciate that you've taken the time to sit with me, and I hope that I'll see you again soon. So until next week, I will say, as I always do, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.